Hey, what is up? Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name's Jenna if you're new here, and if you're not new here, welcome back. Today I'm going to be unboxing and swatching a custom palette from Mob Beauty, plus a few other little things I decided to pick up. This is actually a combination of two different orders that I placed back in May, and I realized that it was so hot outside and so humid that I didn't really want to mess with a lot of cream products, which, spoiler alert, that's what a lot of these shadows are. So I waited until the weather was a bit colder and it wasn't so god dang humid. So we are unboxing everything now. So starting with the big palette first, this one holds 8 shades. This is what it looks like. And Mob has updated their packaging since I placed these initial orders. But spoiler alert, I placed a third order more recently, and the mechanics of the packaging all pretty much function the same. I think the material is just different, and then the sleeves, like what I'm opening now, that the individual shades come shipped in, those are very different, and I'll get into that later. But I was just trying to play around here with the layout of the palette. I do end up switching it around a bit, but I was just opening these guys and getting them situated. I did learn that later you have to make sure that they're oriented correctly because one side has a rounded corner and one side has a sharp corner. So I did not know that. I will come to find that out in just a little bit here. But right now I'm just unwrapping everything and placing them where I think I want them. And this shade here, M65, that I'm unwrapping, I actually opened it before I started the video and when I first got my order in May, just to make sure that that wasn't shattered, because I always like to check my powder shadows and make sure that they did not get cracked in transit. But anyway, that is one of only 3 shadows that I initially ordered that were a regular powder formula and not the cream clay formula. I really just went all in. I have a habit of doing that. When I'm trying a new brand, I go all in, baby, and you can see this was no exception. And I historically have not had the best time with cream products in general, to be honest, but especially for my eyes. I have very greasy, creasy, oily eyelids, so I've not had the best time with cream products lasting very long. But I thought, since this is described as a cream to powder formula and because it has clay in the name, maybe it would be different. I have been wearing the products a little bit, testing everything out, and honestly the longevity is better than other cream products that I've tried, so there is that. I gotta give it to them. And here you can see me really start to struggle with getting the little notches on the back of the individual eyeshadows to fit into place, and I definitely could not close the outer portion of the thing, so I had to go off camera for a little bit and figure it out. So this is the edge that I was talking about. One is more rounded, one is more sharp. So when you have a palette that allows you to store more than one shade, you're going to want to line up the sharper edges up against each other with the smooth corners facing outward, and then you can close it just like that. Took me a while to figure out, to be honest, and I had even watched some Mob videos before now, but you know, it's been a while, I guess. But that's my little palette, and now we're going to move on to the little 2-shade compact, and these are going to house the other 2 powder shadows that I purchased. And some of the packaging is very stubborn, like it does not want to be opened or change its position, and maybe that has something to do with the fact that I've been storing these away for a few months. But anyway, this is the shade M48, which is described as an olive tone. It looks more gold, maybe like antique gold to me, but it is pretty. And this is M44, which is a really pretty rosy pink color. I think it's super pretty. So now that I've figured out how to do the thing, there's me doing the thing correctly the first time. So you just pop the notch of the eyeshadow into the open cutout, and then you fold down the little barrier thing. I don't really know what to call it. And then you can close the lid. And I also picked up a blush. This is the shade M72. It's a nice orangey, corally, warm-toned-ish blush. And once again, it is important to make sure that the little notches on the back of the component match up with the cutouts in the compact. So it can only be oriented a certain way, especially for blush. And since I decided to go all in on trying Mob, I also picked up a lipstick. This is what their refillable component looks like for it. It's just a nice little tube. You pop it open, super easy. And then the lipstick itself comes separately in its own packaging, and it's a more narrow tube that's designed to fit inside the refillable tube. So you can see it comes with a little protective plastic cap and then a twisting mechanism at the bottom. That's what's going to allow you to roll up the lipstick as you're using it. So you're going to click that twisty part into the refillable part of the component. Then you can just take off the plastic cap and put on the outer cap, and you are good to go. So now that we've built our eyeshadow palette, we've built our duo, we've built our cheek compact, we've built our lipstick, it is time to get swatching. Starting with the powder eyeshadows first, this is the shade M48, which is described on the Mob website as a shimmering olive. Like I said though, it reads as more gold. There's maybe a green undertone, but it's very gold to me. M44 is described as a lilac taupe sheen. I do get the taupe undertones with this, but it doesn't read as lilac to me. To me, this looks very pink, but it is very pretty. Also, even when I was ordering and even now, I have been accessing the website through my phone, and I know that different monitors and color displays can affect things, so I'm not super mad about it. I just thought I would mention it. Now is the shade M65, and that is described as a matte brown plum. I would say this is accurate. The only thing I want to note is this is much lighter than it looked on their website. Now we're getting into the cream clay shadows. I decided to use a brush because I'm trying to avoid putting my fingers straight into the product. This is the shade M110. This is described as a deep maroon burgundy, and I think that is more than fair. It's super beautiful and rich. The formula is stiffer than I expected it to be, so you have to dig in a little bit more than you might think. This is the shade M111. This is described as a lavender stone. I think that's pretty accurate. Next up is the shade M83, and this is just described as a lavender. And I think that is also very aptly named. Super creamy, very pigmented. The pastels are actually, I would say, more pigmented than the other shadows. This is M85, which is described as a mint seafoam green. And just look at how opaque that went on. And by now I am starting to dig in a little bit more, so that does help. But look at M106 now. This is described as a deep green peacock color, and I think that also is accurate, but it went on a little bit more streaky. It required a little bit more digging into, which I did not do before I moved on, unfortunately. But this is the shade M109, and this is described as chartreuse green. Super pretty. And actually these last two shades I've just swatched, plus M110 from earlier, those are in collaboration with Jessica Hayes MUA. I will link her Instagram. I'm not sure if she's here on YouTube. If she is, I will link that as well. This is M103, and this is an olive mustard. Again, super, super beautiful. I think that's also in collaboration with Jessica Hayes. So now I'm going to swatch the blush, and this is the shade M72, and it's described as a natural rosy tan, which, yeah, that checks out. And I just swatched it on the back of my hand with a finger. I haven't really had much luck with cream blushes using my fingers, so this probably wasn't the best decision in hindsight. But just to give you an idea for the color and the buildability, it is definitely more sheer than the cream clay eyeshadows. And I noticed that it did start to kind of pick up the layer underneath when I tried to build it up too much, but it's definitely not a comprehensive review of it. Now swatching the Hydrating Cream lipstick in M60. This is described as a rose taupe brown. I love me some rosy taupey tones. That is definitely the theme of this video and of my purchase. I'm all about it. So that's what the lip and cheek look like. And here's the eyeshadow swatches again. Super, super beautiful. I have been wearing these. I've done a few looks. I will be posting them on Instagram. One should already be up. But before we exit out of this video, I'm going to show you the third order that I made because I cannot be stopped. So let's get into it. Here it is. I got a few more lipsticks. These two are mattes, and then I wanted to try their cake liner, and then I also got one more eyeshadow because it's teal and I couldn't resist, so that's how that happened. And you know what? My justification for it is, at least for the purposes of this video, I can now show you what the updated packaging looks like. So here is what the lipstick looks like now. It comes in this outer tube that is paper material of some sort. It still comes with the protective cap on the inside. It's got the twisty mechanism on the bottom, but realistically, you could just leave it in the little recyclable tube if you wanted to. Had I known this, would I have bought this little refillable guy? Probably not, but now you know, and you don't have to make the same decisions as me, unless you want to. If you want the sturdier packaging, that's cool too. I did get two shades. Like I mentioned, these are in their matte formula just because I wanted to get a good variety. And I also really liked these two colors. So once again, and this guy, he was real stubborn. He did not want to come out at first, and he gives me trouble later. Maybe a sign that I went a little overboard. Maybe God was punishing me. I don't know. But anyway, you live and you learn. So there's another one of those little refillable guys. And here is another compact. This is just the single compact, and I got it for the cake liner because I don't really like mixing my water activated liners with other products that are going on my eye. I like to just let them be in their own self-contained thing. And this is what the updated shipping packaging looks like for the singles, for the liner and for the eyeshadow. So now it also comes in its own compact. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this single eyeshadow in its little compact. And yes, this one did arrive a little banged up, but I was able to smush it back together. It was honestly easier to repress than some other shadows that I've tried, so that was good. So now I'm going to pop these little lipsticks into their fancy components since I've got them here, so I might as well, right? And this one went in no problem, just snapped right into place. Popped the lid on, and this guy, he gave me some grief. Or really, I gave myself grief because I rolled it up too far when I was messing around with it and I smushed it against the cap, and now it's a little ugly, but he's still cute. It's whatever. So I popped him in, and I thought he was clicked into place. Later, I will realize that he in fact was not, but it's no biggie. So then I got to test out the little single compact, and they are really hard to get open initially. And this is not something that I've been holding on to for a few months. This was like something I got a day before I filmed. So they're just a little tough to open sometimes. But again, no biggie. I popped it in and I closed it all back up, and it was nice and snug. And then I'm just leaving this guy in his compact. So once again, it's time to get swatching, and we will start once again with the eyeshadow. And this is described as a shimmering pewter teal. It is a bit more blue leaning than what I imagine teal to be, but it is really, really pretty, and I'm glad that I picked it up. And this one also felt super smooth and buttery and just glided on when I swatched it, so I was really happy with that. And now I'm doing the cake liner, and this is M116. It's the cake liner equivalent of M106 from the cream clay formula. So it's that deep peacock green color, and it's supposed to emulate the look of like worn in, slightly aged tattoos, which I think is just super cool. This is another one of the collaborations with Jessica Hayes. And she's just a super cool, super talented makeup artist. She is all about clean beauty. She's vegan. She's just super rad. And she is definitely the creator who put Mob Beauty on the map for me. So I also really just appreciate her color ideas, I guess. So I had to pick up a lot of her collab shades because they spoke right to my soul, and this is no exception. And I also love a liner moment, so I felt like this had to be added to my collection. And it did take some building up. I think it's because it is brand new. Some liners take a while to break in, if that makes sense, or like break the seal at the top layer. Anyway, this is M102, and that's when I realized that he was not as sturdy and secure as I thought he was, so don't mind me. But I want to point out, this one has a little sticker on the tube that tells you what shade it is, which I find super helpful. And this is one that I got from Credo, so I guess that's a Credo thing because none of the ones that I got from the Mob website directly have that, but I think that's a really nice touch. This is the shade M95. It's described as a deep amethyst plum, and I don't know that I would call this a deep shade. I would call it mid-tone probably, and I'm pretty pale, so there's that. But I will say it is showing a little bit warm on camera here. There definitely is a plum undertone to it. And I didn't get a chance to mention earlier, but M102, the shade above the one I just swatched, that's described as a light grayish, and that's also more cool tone than what my camera was picking up. And just for comparison's sake, I brought out M60 again, which I swatched in the first half of this video, and I just wanted to compare. My lighting situation did change just a little bit, so now things are pulling even more warm, but in any lighting, M60 is definitely the warmest of the three. And with that said, that concludes all my swatches of all the things that I have picked up from Mob over the past few months. And like I mentioned earlier, I have already done a couple looks using some of the eyeshadows from the BYOP that I made. So if you're interested in checking that out, please go follow me on Instagram. And of course, I would also love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel here. I would love to have you. And I hope that you found this video helpful. I just wanted to share some of my thoughts and what I was seeing, at least to the best of my abilities with my little phone camera. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!